Hi everyone, today I have a spinal release video for you. We're going to work upper spine, middle, and all the way down to pelvis. You'll need a towel or a yoga blanket, preferably not just kind of like a throw blanket. Those are a little bit squishier, so would prefer a towel, a beach towel, something like that would work. And then you're just going to roll it up. You might have to adjust the thickness once you get into poses. We're going to start with this one right in the low back. So you're going to put your blanket roll right on your mat, and then you're going to lay over your blanket roll right on your low back. And when I say low back, I mean the space above your hips and below your ribs. So just be really, really mindful of that placement of the blanket roll above the hips and below the ribs. And if you're not used to having something in your spine, especially in your low back, then this is going to be relatively sensational. However, just know that the sensation is releasing the low back. So the spine has a natural curve right at the lumbar spine, but because we often tuck our tailbones instead of lift our tailbones, then what happens is the low back flattens and then we start to have all these back issues. So this is a really nice one. I know, like I said, even though it can be intense, this one is a really nice one afterwards to release the low back. If it's feeling like way too excruciating, then unroll the blanket roll a little bit so that there's less height. The legs are just going to be nice and long, and then a couple options with the arms. You can keep them out by the sides, or I like to take my arms up overhead, and then I get a little bit more stretch on the front chain of the body all the way through the hip flexors. And then just settle into your breath. When we allow ourselves to be in our breath, despite sensations in our bodies, then we can quell the nervous system as it begins to spike in response to those sensations. And so now we'll just take it for a little bit of a massage. So you're going to bend your knees, take your feet wide, and then just rock your knees to the right and to the left. Ooh. And then you're going to get a massage all the way across the low back. The low back houses the kidneys, and on top of the kidneys sit the adrenals. So this is a nice adrenal reset as well as a nice flush of the kidneys. And the kidneys tend to hold a lot of toxins in our bodies. They're kind of like the last stage before the toxins get dumped out of our bodies. So it's really nice to flush the kidneys here as well. And if there's one place that you're feeling a bit more sensation, or if it feels good, then you can remain there and pause. Like I feel a little tightness on the right lower back, so I'm pausing with my knees to the left. Good. And then when you've had enough of that, roll to one side or to the other, come all the way up and around. You're then going to move your blanket roll, so it's going to go underneath your upper back, right where your shoulder blades are, or right behind your heart so that your heart is lifted and your lungs have access to fresh air. So place that blanket roll right there on the upper back. It's kind of that part of the back that's really stiff that we don't want to bend from. Sometimes it even feels like a brick is right there. It's really, really stiff. We have a tendency to bend more from our lower back, but really it's the upper back that needs a little bit more malleability and flexibility. For this one, I like to take my arms up overhead, like almost in a cactus-like shape, but feel free to take your arms in any way that feels comfortable. And then with the lungs fully on the front side of the body, you can start to breathe in the minerals of the air that acts as kind of little mini energy pockets that we can breathe in and use the energy. This is one that I recommend. This one, especially for the upper back, is one that I recommend you doing every single day. I usually do this at the end of my day in the evening before sleep, just because we spend a lot of time rounding our spines, and especially our upper spine, typing, cooking, chopping food, chopping vegetables, texting, all that kind of stuff, driving. And so it's really nice at the end of the day to come back and reset our spine and get our heart lifted and our lungs to the front side of the body after they've been curved and rounded back all day. A couple more breaths here. And when you're ready to release from that, again, roll to your right or to your left side and go ahead and press yourself up. Okay, we've got one more pose here. I've got a couple yoga blocks, but another alternative would be some nice thick books that you can stack up. This is just going to go underneath our hips for a supported bridge pose. So go ahead and lie all the way down on your back once you've gotten your books or blocks or whatever you are using. Bring your feet nice and close to your hips, and then lift your hips. I'm going to do 2 yoga blocks on the lowest setting underneath my hips, and then just settle my hips down. So you want the blocks or the books, whatever you're using, to be right on the sacrum, which is that triangular shaped bone at the base of the spine. You can also find it at the top of the butt crack. So either way, either measurement works, but you want to be really mindful of that placement. A way to check to make sure you've gotten the right placement is to bring your knees up, and if your knees feel like they're kind of effortlessly floating, then you've got it. If you feel like you have to hold your knees in any direction, then come down and adjust the blocks appropriately. Have your feet hip-width distance and your knees in. Try not to let your knees splay. This is just going to squish the sacrum and create more back issues, so you want to be really mindful of keeping the knees together, not so much so that they touch, but that they're just hip-width distance, so the knees are coming directly out from the hips. Couple options with the hands. Your hands can be down by your sides, or you can take your arms up overhead. You can grab opposite elbows, whatever feels good, and then settle into your breath. This is really good for releasing the low back and for releasing, giving some more space to the kidneys. We often sit very heavy in our pelvis throughout the day. And so when we sit heavy in our pelvis and all of the organs within that space get squished, so the kidneys are often getting squished. So when we elevate the hips, then we give a bit more space for the kidneys to reorganize. As you breathe, think about breathing past your belly and all the way down into the spaciousness of your hips. So imagine that you could breathe your pubic bone forward and your tailbone back, and you could breathe your right hip away from your left hip. So it's like you're expanding the pelvis in all 4 corners in all directions. You might get some nice little licks from your dog or kisses from your cat. Just a few more breaths here. And sometimes the low back can feel like tight or a little bit of tension, and that's just that tension and that tightness releasing from the low back. We have a teacher that likes to say that anytime there's a symptom coming up, like a tightness or like a headache or anything like that, it's coming forward to be healed, to be released. And then to release out of this, you're going to bring your feet closer towards your butt. You're going to lift your hips and remove the blocks. Be sure to come down with your butt touching first so that there's some space in your low back, as if someone had a hand underneath your low back and you're coming all the way down. Then just take your feet out wide to the edges of your mat, and then you're just going to windshield wiper your legs from side to side to give the spine a little bit of a twist, a rinse before we close. Wonderful. Go ahead and find a seat. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more wonderful content. We'll see you guys next time.